So we don't have sales. We have member experience because this team focuses not just on supporting with issues, but also education. We're here not for us, but for others.
Wow. I was like, okay, I definitely want to check this out.
Everyone told us that we were idiots. They strongly advised us not to do it.
Hey, awesome people. Welcome to Bootstrap Stories, the only podcast where founders of bootstrap companies share in all transparency the ups and downs of their journey. Starting a business comes hand in hand with loneliness, the pressure of not being successful, and overall, lots of challenges. After meeting with hundreds of entrepreneurs in the past years, I figured out that we all have struggles and make lots of mistakes when building a business. But the truth is that most people are afraid to share this publicly. That's what motivated me to start this podcast, to show that we're all on the same journey, facing the same struggles, and to give energy to all entrepreneurs worldwide to continue their adventure. Even if sometimes it can be really challenging and we often feel like giving up, in the end, it's all worth it. My guest for this episode is Martha Bitar, co-founder and CEO at Flodesk. Hey, Martha, welcome to Bootstrap Stories.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited. So before starting, I kind of like to outline the topics of today's episode. In the first part, I really want us to focus on the growth secrets that helped you build a $10 million ARR business being fully bootstrapped. I also know that it's your first entrepreneurial adventure like me. So I'm curious to find out if you ever had hard times or challenges growing Flodesk. And after that, I really want to know how you managed to stand out from the crowd, like the crowd you're in, and there are a lot of competitors. So this is something I'm interested in because we know a lot of the big names like MailChimp or ActiveCampaign, MailChimp who got acquired at few billions, and you're still like growing extremely fast in a crowded business. So I guess there is a secret sauce. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Awesome. So can you give me a bit more context about maybe like the numbers, when you started, what's your growth like, etc.?
Yes, of course. So we launched in August of 2019, and we are at 15 million ARR. Actually, we just hit it.
Wow.
So it's going pretty fast.
That's awesome. How big is the team right now?
We're 31, including all contractors. We have maybe about 20 people full-time.
That's really cool. And have you seen like was the business scaling hyper quickly from the start, or did it take a bit of time to scale?
Yes. So in August, when we first launched, I was employed full time at a startup, and I loved my job. So I remember saying, "Okay, let's put a go, no go date, essentially, just to see if we have product market fit." So after working a lot on the alpha, my co-founders and I agreed that if we get to 500 paying customers by December, it would be a go, and I would leave and go full time into Flodesk. And again, we launched in August, and by that December, we had 5,000 customers.
What?
So at that point, it was like a no-brainer. I had to leave. But from the beginning, like from day one, not planned, not expected. I think it just kind of took a life of its own.
That's really crazy. I mean, I went on your website and I was really curious because when someone that I met in Portugal told me about you, I was like, okay, I definitely want to check this out. The website is super clean, like everything is well designed. So I'm curious, like you're back in 2019, it's in August, you're in a super crowded market, which is email marketing. And you're like, okay, I want to launch Flodesk. What's like your strategy? Like, do you focus on a specific niche? Do you go like mass market? How did you get started?
That's a great question. So first of all, I have to tell you that everyone that wasn't our ideal market told us that we were, I don't know if I can say this word, idiots, essentially, live, that we were building something that already existed, and they strongly advised us not to do it. And a couple of times, even I remember Rebecca and I would hear these and we'd be like, oh, like maybe they're right? Like maybe we're spinning our wheels or we're wasting our time. But then every single time we would talk to someone who was in our target market, they would say, oh my gosh, yes, please. Like, can I test it first? And that target market was small business owners, but don't even think like small business owners with like a team of 10 people. It's just like micro entrepreneurs. And the moment we realized that there was something going on with this market, and this would be our like focus area, was when a lot of our own friends started telling us that they were struggling with email marketing. And these are people who have crushed it in other channels. So it was really hard for us to comprehend, like, why, if they are really good at marketing, right, can't they nail email marketing? So that's when we started realizing, okay, something's really broken in the way that the current solutions are created. And then MailChimp, you've mentioned MailChimp before, had already, I think, 14 million among like free and paid, right, users. So we realized, okay, this is a huge market, right? So despite everyone saying this is super saturated, if we can even get like 1% of those users that are not very happy, and I know this is not the greatest strategy, and when you're building something like VC backed, for example, like that's never going to fly. But for us, we were like, all we need is that like tiny amount of people that are not happy, that need these. So to answer your question, we laser focused, and we're still laser focusing on that very, very small business / like micropreneur market. And we focused on solving two things. One was the ease of use. And we did this by not just making it super intuitive, but also figuring all the things that were there that made sense 20 years ago when these platforms were invented that probably don't make sense right now. What are some of the things that we can automate, right, with technology that people don't have to think about, right, or have to learn? So that was the first one, ease of use. And then the second one was design. So you commented on the website. That is what I would say really brought it home and created a very different experience. Because after spending hours on your email, if you don't feel really proud of it, you're not going to send it, right? And it's still the channel that converts at the highest rate. So there's a lot of success that gets lost, right, by these email campaigns not making it ever out there. So those were the two, ease of use and really gorgeous design.
Nice. Yeah, I really like the differentiator. I'm also curious because if you look at kind of like your pricing strategy, you started, because you're targeting SMBs, you really adapted your pricing. So MailChimp can be a bit expensive for small business. So you decided to go like with penetration pricing. Was it something that in the early days, like was the price even smaller than it is right now? Or how exactly did you strategize that?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So we did it two ways. One, it was how do we need to price it so we can make it sustainable, right? Because if we are not making money, then we're not going to be around for the next few years or like 10, 15 years. And that's not good for the customers who switch, right? And also, how do we make it really affordable? Because the mission has always been to make email marketing accessible to this market. And part of making it accessible is not just design, it's not just ease of use, it's also price. And one of the things that we realized as we were doing these studies, right, and modeling was that the pricing for email marketing is very outdated, and not because it has to be, but because it can be. And for example, if we look at Squarespace, right, or any other company, Show It, right, that charges for making websites, Webflow, they're not telling you, I'm going to charge you more if you get more traffic, because everyone knows by now that they don't have to pay significantly more to support a website that has a ton more traffic than if they don't. So the reason why they're charging like these other email marketing companies is not because they have to, it's because they can. There's a pricing study that's done that shows you essentially like what is the ideal area where you still monetize the max, but don't lose enough customers. And that's kind of like your ideal point. And that's how they price it, which makes perfect sense. For the record, like I'm a huge fan of those studies. It was just not our goal to max out our monetization. It was that how do we create the most value for the most people? And that became part of the pricing strategy.
Nice. So what's really interesting, I think, is we started our company in two like very crowded markets. I know a lot of our listeners often have this question, with differentiators, etc. And what I like to say is, if a market is crowded, it means that there is a product market fit. You just need to be better. And I feel like you kind of nailed your targeting, and also you got like really better. And what I like about your business model is that not only you thought about differentiating the product, but you kind of like rethink entirely like the pricing model, as you mentioned. And sometimes I think it's good to understand why people used to price it like this, and why maybe you shouldn't do it. Is it part of your strategy to increase price as you go? Or maybe you've already done it within the last 2.5 years?
We did it once. We didn't really increase the pricing. It's always been 38 per month. What we did instead was during beta, we enabled anyone who came in during that time to apply a 50% off referral code. So if you came in referred by another user, you could keep that 50% off for as long as your subscription's active. Now that 50% off applies to the first year. So it's more of the long-term live pricing. It's been the same. I don't think we need to change it. We may in the future, like for example, right now we get a lot of interest from enterprise companies or even like mid-sized and larger companies. We typically send them away because we don't want to get into a situation where they say something like, okay, well, we'll pay you a lot more to create these features that only a small portion of our users will use. I think that's a good strategy for some companies, not for us. We really want to continue serving that target market and focusing on what is going to help these, like the majority of our users. But in the future, if we ever go up market, maybe there are some things like team management or API or coding, something like it doesn't really fall into our philosophy right now. I don't want to say we're never going to do it, but maybe, I don't know. We'll see what the world looks like later on.
I'm with you on this. Like we've been running away from enterprise accounts. Like it's
yeah. Tell me more. I'd love to hear why. Like what's your philosophy?
Yeah, like for us, to be honest, like what was really annoying is just the time it takes for people to make decisions. So I remember having like 5 to 7 meetings with people, and they were all super excited about the product, ready to pay yearly, like huge amount of money, etc. So you get excited, and then like comes the part where they ask to your legal department, which you don't have obviously when you get started, and
totally
they ask for hundreds of paperwork, etc., etc., and then it becomes a whole new level, and it's like all these things that you don't want to spend time as a founder on. And I think it's much more fun whenever you're dealing with smaller business who you are like closer with. But again, like it's also a good strategy. Like I know a lot of friends of mine are just targeting enterprise account, and they make this 1 or 2 millions per year deals, which is great. Like they just need a few clients to already be like a really good and profitable business. But it's not the things that I enjoyed. And you mentioned like during beta, people had a code to get like a discount, etc., which I'm assuming you're doing a lot of affiliation. How exactly have you been structuring your affiliation? Has it been the main like acquisition channels, or can you tell me a bit more about it?
Yeah, this is the most exciting part, right? Because you build a business and then you think, okay, I'm eventually going to need like sales and marketing and all of these like money, right, to power my growth. And what happened was not that at all. And it was actually really surprising. So very early on, when we were just user testing, we realized that people wanted to share, like specifically in this market, right? When a business owner finds something that they like, they want to share it with others, right? Like when you go up market into mid-size and enterprise, there's a bit of competition between like the enterprises, but there's still some knowledge sharing. But when you're in the SMB space, there are like thousands of communities on Facebook and Instagram. They follow each other. They really like root for each other, and they want to tell each other when they find something that works. So we found out very early on that they wanted to share. That was one. Two, very early on also, we found that we had a really big advantage when it came to growth with a viral loop in the product. So if you think about it, when someone comes in and they send an email through Flodesk, they send it to their whole list, right? So let's say that the list is 16,000 people. So all of a sudden you have 16,000 new eyeballs looking at the results, like the beautiful result of someone using the product successfully. And then they get the little made with love in Flodesk, and they can just click it and then go create an account. And that creates a viral loop, right? So this is the Hotmail model. We didn't make it up. It's been around forever, but it was a great opportunity for us to fuel that growth by doing one thing very well, which is how do we make each user as successful as possible in like sending their first email? And then that fuels the rest of the loop. So to me, that was beautiful because it was very aligned with our customers doing what they needed to do. And if we help them do that, then all of a sudden we reaped the benefits as well. So we knew that was going to happen. So what we did was model our referral or affiliate program to encourage a lot of that behavior. So right now, every single user has a referral code and they can invite somebody else into the platform. And that referral code gives them 50% off, and it gives the referrer a kickback of $19, which is equivalent to 1 month with a 50% off applied, right? And we brought that into the footer. So if you send an email and your 16,000 people see it right in your audience, and one of them joins, you're also going to get that referral credit. So it's encouraging. So everyone can turn it off, right? Like out of our users, I would say I think it's 82 or 83% leave the footer on, even though you can turn it off. And it's a combination of they really are rooting for the business to grow, but also they're incentivized to do it.
So many questions right now.
We can break that into.
This is really fascinating because a company that I admire for their affiliation strategy is ClickFunnels also. So whenever they build like their website, you create a website, you have this made with ClickFunnels. So a lot of people click on it, and what I like about it is by definition, everyone is an affiliate. It's not something that people can choose or whatever. It's like, if you're bringing us customers without noticing it, you're going to get paid for it, which I think is really amazing, especially when you talk to like SMBs and small business owners. But in your case, if I break down correctly, like your model, so tell me if I understood it well, your price is about $38. So whenever people click on this made with Flodesk or made with love by Flodesk, they click on it, they can get directly a 50% discount. And the person who actually sent the email or is a referrer will get a kickback of $19, which is half of the price. So essentially for the first months, the person doesn't have to pay. Is there a free trial or do they have to pay upfront?
No, they have to pay because the $19 go to the referrer. So $19 go to the person that's essentially sending the email, encouraging them to join, whether directly or not. So
there is no free trial for people who arrived on the webpage. Is that correct?
There is. There's always a 30-day trial for everyone. And the reason is it's just we thought it was the most fair thing, right? After talking to several segments that we knew were going to be the biggest segments of users, we realized that it takes about 30 days to know if it's something that's going to work for you or not. Some segments only need a week, but for some, they need a good habit or like a good set of emails before they know if their audience is going to be responding well to it or not, or even to build an audience. So it became the right amount. But we still noticed that a lot of like a big chunk of customers convert before day 7.
Okay, so as soon as they convert, this is when the referral happens, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and do you pay people as like cash, or is it like a credit on their account? So whenever on the next month, on the next invoice, essentially they get like this for free.
Yeah, it's PayPal, so it's essentially digital cash, so real cash. And the reason we did that was just because it was the easiest, and we thought, okay, at some point we might change it. But then after talking to them, they're like, no, this is actually really good for me, right? Like I decided if I want to reinvest it in Flodesk or keep paying or not. So.
Okay, so some people are actually making money out of it, even just by sending like messages to their audience. And okay.
Oh yes, yes,
and
definitely.
Have you decided to build like user stories of your affiliates? So, for example, in order for you to try to push it, you can say, okay, like this person, he or she is running like this business, sending to like other businesses that could benefit from Flodesk, and actually. Right now is making like $1,000 through referrals every single month. Like, is it something you advertise? Do you have someone in-house to handle this part? How exactly does that work?
Yeah, we don't. We've thought about it, and I do think it's something that's really fun, and it would even be fun as an experiment of growth. But really, I think to me, I don't want to distract them from growing their business, right? In the end of the day, they're a small business owner, and sometimes, well, I think we all feel this almost like input attack of all of these platforms stealing your attention and telling you to do the thing that they want you to do. And to me, it's more of an ethical question. Like, okay, maybe I'd rather them focus on their own business and the content that we send is more focus on how do we help them take the next steps so that they can grow their business and make it more profitable, more sustainable. But also, I think we haven't had to, because they naturally share. And I think this is one of the reasons why it's better to create every user as an affiliate, because a lot of affiliate programs focus on working with the elite. And I think that's a big mistake, because you end up either like glorifying celebrity status, which doesn't always resonate with the target market that you want to attract, or even when it's very aligned to people who are maybe educating the market, you're not giving access to the large majority of your users, thinking that maybe they won't have the audience. But what we've observed is that the small voices really carry a lot of the weight of the win. So 76%, if you look at our graph, it's like a circle graph, and you'll see that 76% of our wins by referrals are like all like one lines, right? It's just all the small voices that are coming together to bring maybe one or two more people, and that's what creates the volume. So it's beautiful in that way, but also you're not having to depend on a couple of large referrers, because if you like lose one, it's okay, right? Like you still have a really big inflow of word of mouth. So to me, it's great because it helps us focus on serving again, like
definitely. Like you're getting like very low risk having so many affiliates. So that's really amazing. And you still mentioned that about 25% comes from maybe like bigger affiliates. Is this an affiliation program you have, for example, for bloggers, or is it something you don't do ever?
No, never. We have an affiliate kit for everyone. It goes to everyone so that they have access to maybe like official images or the logo or things like that. But again, we haven't had to. Some people naturally have larger followings, or some of the top referrers don't even have, they just are so enthusiastic and they tell everyone. So we just give them everything that they need and then let them decide how much time they want to dedicate to it.
That's awesome. And the program of kicking back the money, etc., is it something you built in-house, or is it are you going through another software for that?
It's a software called Affiliate. It's good software. There's still a lot that you have to build in-house, especially if you want your own front end. But to me, it works really well. And it's something that we don't have to maintain. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then our engineers can focus on making our own product, a lot better.
That's really awesome. But overall, like because of this affiliate model, do you feel like you have like a bit less profitable like margin that a traditional SaaS? Do you feel like it is an issue overall, or not really?
Not really, because if you think about it from a cost perspective, if you weren't focusing big on the affiliate program, we would probably put those dollars into a marketing campaign. So the money would go to Facebook, right? It would probably go to Facebook ads or Instagram ads or Pinterest ads, or right. Or just like hiring to create campaigns that then give discount to the users. So you'd be discounting the product either way. So what we found is we don't have to discount, because that lives there. Like if you follow somebody else's code, you're able to get a better price. And if that's what you're looking for, it's available. And we'd rather our dollars go to, I hope this is okay, but to our own users instead of to Facebook. So
we're not going to post this on Facebook. Don't worry.
Okay, yeah. No offense. We do.
Sorry, Mark.
We do ad campaigns. So there's some that go to Facebook. The bulk majority goes back to our own members.
And do you have have you done anything to push that program apart from, because right now it seems to be really well engineered, sorry. So is that something you're always trying to improve, or do you just it's working now and there is this viral effect, so you just let it go?
We let it go. We try to, it's working very well, right? So when it's working really well, we let it go. But there are things that we try to do to encourage that behavior. So for example, one thing that we notice is that our members are very proud of what they create, and they, within days of joining, sometimes the same day, turn to Instagram and they just share on their Insta stories. Like, hey, here's what I'm working on, and I love Flodesk, and here's why. And we love that, right? So we see it and then we repost on our own profile. And then we interact a lot because we get really excited, right? So when I see it, I try to send a message. And Nicole, who is always on Instagram, she handles all Instagram social media, gets really close to them, right? Like she's always hearing what they have to say. And if there's a problem, trying to help and also dig deeper. So we really try to encourage that. But again, in the end of the day, like there's a line, right? Where if something already happened, we would love to celebrate it. But we really try not to cross that line to where it feels like we're trying to steal some of that attention for our own benefit, because we found a better way to do it, which is, hey, if you win, we win, right? So let's just encourage you to be successful with whatever you choose to do.
Awesome. So another question I have is, you're past 15 million in ARR, which is really huge with a team of 30 people. Yeah, it's crazy. So first, congrats again. And on top of it, you have like thousands of customers, like tens of thousands of customers. So how exactly do you manage like support? Was it like a strategy from the start to create a product that is so easy to use that you don't have to have any support? Or do you have like a dedicated support team and that's where all the resources go? Like how do you handle this?
Yeah, so we don't have sales. We have... you could call it support. We call it member experience. And It's because this team focuses not just on supporting with issues, but also education. So for example, our head of member experience had the idea to create Flodesk University, where we invited some of the members that were already crushing it. And they created videos to just share what's working really well for them. So this team it's such a strong team, but they focus on the entire experience, right? So it's both. It's a combination of how do we answer questions very promptly and help our members, but also Megan, who leads the team, she always said, Martha, I don't want to delight, right? I want to educate so that we can empower our members to do it for themselves. But if they have a problem, I don't want to go into their account and do it for them. I want to tell them how to do it and why they should do it this way. And then next time they're going to be able to do it on their own and maybe post in the Facebook group and help somebody else do it. So I really love that philosophy. And she's carried that from like the very beginning. So I would say there's definitely a strategy there. And then it's a combination of making sure that the answer is there in a very empowering way. But also, if we're getting a lot, they're so data driven. So if we're getting a lot of certain types of questions, then maybe that indicates that there needs to be a change in the product, right? So if everyone's getting stuck at this step, let's dig deeper and let's do some research and figure out why that's happening, and then see if this is a product issue and maybe we can fix it in the product. So there's this like feedback loop that's super tight, that's always happening. And then there's also the automation within the team, right? So maybe there's like some templates that we can use to make everyone more efficient. And then everyone in the team has their own OKR that's separate from the team OKR. So maybe someone's focused more on cancellation reasons. Maybe someone's focused more on switching from a monthly to an annual subscription. So these, for example, was amazing because having someone focus on that experience helped us understand that a lot of our members really want to be on an annual subscription, but the first option we display is a monthly one. So with that knowledge, we tested switching the first option to an annual, still providing the manual, like the monthly one, they can just switch manually. And by just doing that experiment from May until now, we went from 14% of our users being on an annual plan to 20%. Like we're at 19.9 right now. So nice. It's really fun, right? Because then the tweaks are very customer informed.
That's really, really cool. And this team, essentially, like how big it is right now?
9.
9%. Okay, yeah. So it's a third of the company.
So it's a huge part. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And whenever you have your users, so the top performing ones, create content, especially in a university, how exactly do you handle that part? Do you pay them to create the content? Do you have them come in a studio professionally where they can record? Or is it everything done at home? They're not paid, they do it voluntarily. How exactly does that work?
Yeah, so we created these in the middle of the pandemic. So there was no traveling. Everything was done at home. And what we did was we sent them the equipment to record at home. And the people that we partner with were already creating online content for themselves. So we just picked the best quality equipment and gifted it as well. So that was a really good agreement for all of us.
So, for example, you paid like for a camera, a microphone, etc. So a few $1,000
backdrop and
okay, nice. That's really really
it
nice.
was really exciting.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone do that before. It's really cool. So you didn't pay them, but you offered them the equipment, which is worth like a few $1,000.
Exactly, and we talked about it before. We were like, "What would you like?" And everyone felt more comfortable with that.
That's really really awesome. And did you pick the content for them, or were they able to choose whatever they want, whatever topic they wanted to discuss?
It was a very personal process. So I jumped on the phone on a Zoom with every one of the instructors, and we talked about what they were focusing on in their business right now. What are some of the areas that they want to go into? So maybe they already had identified some topics that they were going to be educating on in the future, and it made sense to start focusing on them. We also talked about what are some of the topics that they would want the audience to reach out to them or follow them after watching the video, right? So for me, it was how do we make it so the video is super short, under 10 minutes long. So viewers can get to the aha moment as fast as possible, right? Because nobody really has time to be watching super long trainings. And how do we make it so that if a viewer learns that they can actually learn from you, they go on and follow you. And these are all partners that already have education on their platforms. So we wanted that relationship to continue. So the topics were chosen based on that. Like, what do you want people to come to you for later on? And again, it was really personal. Like each meeting was very different, and the topic was decided that way, and it worked really well, which is great because we don't know what we're doing. We're just trying to do the best every day, and that was one of the ones that worked out.
Yeah, it seems that it worked out pretty well. And you were also mentioning that you are really active on social media. So can you outline this part of your business? Like, is it something you invest heavily? Like, do you have like, a lot of followers on Instagram or a Facebook group, or how do you interact with your users?
Okay, so we have a Facebook community, and we also have our business Instagram. I don't know how many followers we have. Actually, I haven't been tracking. I think maybe we have like 35. I'll tell you right now.
And how many people in the community?
43. That's amazing. 43. And the community, we must have like 10 to 20,000. So I don't want to butcher it like I just did the Instagram. So we have Petra, who focuses solely on the Facebook community. And then we have Nicole, who focuses on Instagram. And then Adam on Twitter. And what we really try to do there is be almost like moderators, but let our members run the content, right? Or the audience run the content. So in the Facebook group, they help each other out, and similar in Instagram. In Instagram, we have to create prompts because you have to post, and that's kind of like just the way it works. But yeah, I mean, I would say we really invest in, every platform has like a dedicated team member that's full-time.
That's nice. And do you feel like it helps more for retention or acquisition, or a bit of both?
We haven't, the answer would be a gut answer because we haven't done any data.
Specific measurement.
Exactly. Okay. It's really hard to measure also. I don't know, because in the group, for example, if you look at the group, like a lot of the things that you see in the Facebook community are going to be complaints, because I remember one time something went wrong and everyone started complaining. And then one of our members sent me a private message saying, Martha, I just want to tell you that nobody ever complains about a toilet that is working correctly. So hang in there. Just know that everyone's always going to tell you all the things that are not working, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a group of us that really loves everything and things are working great for us. So I thought that was really thoughtful, and I needed to hear that day. But that's what happens, right? So I think maybe for fresh members that or leads or trials, right, that join the Facebook community, and then they read all of the issues that happen. It might make them nervous, maybe even before joining. But at the same time, maybe it's an opportunity for them to see how responsive we are.
Yeah, exactly.
And how fast problems are solved. We were going to say something.
No, I think it's great to be super transparent. Our community is the same. So it's funny when you said that, because I remember at some point we changed entirely our UX, and people were just saying who the fuck decided to talk about this U exchange? Guillaume, like, please go back, revert it, etc., etc. And I was like, holy shit. And I started receiving like messaging, people were insulting us, etc. So it was, I felt like hiding under a rock. But in the end, as you said, I think like if you're transparent and open, in the end, people like it, because most of the bigger brands out there, if there is like an issue with their products, they're just going to hide, because in the end, you know, it's like, you know, that after a few days, people are going to move on. Either they churn and change, but they're going to move on. They're not going to keep hating on your product. But if you actually show up, it shows that you are like a real human, like a real person behind the business. And this is where, like, for us, like the biggest haters at the time became like our biggest brand ambassador, because, you know, like we just show them that we cared. And I think you're doing like similar things, which is really cool.
I agree. I think it's a really amazing opportunity to be very upfront, very transparent, but also to have a two-way conversation versus a lot of how marketing was done before. It was you put out something and you never know what people are really saying. So I really like the listening aspect there for sure.
No, that's nice. And I'm also curious, because we've talked a lot about all the things that worked really well. You're having like hyper growth, 15 million ARR in 2.5 years, which is just crazy. I don't think we see a lot even of VC-backed company growing as fast as you. So you must receive, like, I know, for example, on our end, I receive maybe like, 5 emails per week from VCs. So I'm guessing your inbox must be like even more crowded. Have you ever thought about fundraising? Is it something that's on your mind, or you just want to follow the bootstrap way and run your own company under your own terms?
I mean, we thought about it. I think the responsible thing to do is to consider every option and find out what would be best for the team and for the customers. And a lot of these emails come from people that I personally really admire. So we like those meetings happen, right? But one of the funny things that happens is after the whole conversation and sharing the reasons why it doesn't feel like having more money in the bank would help anyone, except for Facebook, maybe.
Facebook and Google, you know, they're always winning in the end.
They always win with VC. Yeah. So even the potential investors say, you know what, you're right. Like this, it doesn't make sense now. It makes like, we respect that. If anything ever changes, please let us know. And then we keep really good relationships with them. Because there's a lot of really good advice that I've gotten from some interested investors, I would say. But in the end of the day, we're profitable, right? And we've been able to be very capital efficient. And if I think about it, like what would we do with more money in the bank? Maybe we would just do more Facebook ads. We'd create growth that maybe wouldn't be sustainable. Like we're already growing really fast. What problem are we trying to solve, in other words? And at some point it might change, but we at the beginning decided to do it this way because the customers that we serve are all bootstrapped, right? So we wanted to just feel the same experience, right? And drive the same way. And also because we didn't think we were going to, like we didn't realize how big it was going to get, how soon. So it was less of a, hey, let's get funding and let's build a really big business, right? It was more of a, hey, let's help a few people. And then boom, okay, we have a business. So now we're a bunch of people who are kind of hacking things away. And we're starting to think, well, how do we make it generational? Like, how do we ensure that we're here 15 years later? And how do we make sure that the team doesn't burn out? How do we make sure that we keep listening to the customer and building the right way and not creating this like growth that might not be sustainable or that we have to pay for later? I don't know. It's hard, right? Because then you start realizing all of the things that you don't know. And then all of the things that you feel like you have to decide on, but you really don't. And then it becomes this kind of like simple thing of like, what is the right thing to do? And then everything kind of follows, I think.
Yeah, that's nice. I think you need to be true to yourself. And I agree with you. Like, for me, like being bootstrap and being close to like other bootstrap companies, it's something great. I do agree that it's good to consider all options, and down the line, you never know what can happen. Like if you find the right partner, if you feel like you're aligned with the vision, then it might make sense also. But you were talking, you know, like early on about someone in your team that, for example, is going to look at pricing and switch like monthly to yearly just to see the impact. And for you, it worked really well. Because you were mentioning like a churn issue, which is usually something we face whenever we're targeting like SMBs. How is the struggle with small business? Is this something you focus heavily, or do you like don't look at churn and are more focused on acquisition? What's your strategy around that?
Okay, so it's really funny because we have 97% retention, which is, now I know, unreal, right? It's like really, really good retention. So we don't have a churn problem. And apparently this is something that you rarely see when you're targeting SMBs. Yeah. But I didn't know that, right? Like part of not having investors is that you don't have a board. So you don't know what's a good baseline and what to freak out about and what not. So I remember I have this app. So we use Recurly, but on top of Recurly, there's an app that's called Profitwell that just gives you a daily. Do you use it too?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's amazing, right? Because they just break down all of your numbers. And so I wake up and I see these every day, and just to see what's like the health of the business. And every single time that someone churns, every time that someone cancels, you get a notification. So that's hard, I think.
I removed that emails.
Yeah.
I removed the churned one. I just keep like the daily, like breakup of everything. But
so I still get it, and every time I would be like, why did we lose a person, right? Like what's happening? And I would dig really deep into it, and eventually I realized that most of these churn was involuntary. Even like the small percentage of it was involuntary, and we started a dunning process with them that essentially aimed to recover when a card would expire, for example, and then the monthly renewal wouldn't occur. But then even if there's a tiny percentage, even if it's like something that everyone tells me that I shouldn't worry about, it hurts, right? And then you start realizing like it's not because you failed them, it's because you're not the right solution for them, or maybe you're not the right solution right now, or maybe not at all. And I think that was a mental adjustment for me, because it was early on that I started understanding that that's okay. And I think the reason why we have such high retention is because we're not trying to be everything for everyone, right? So if someone doesn't really think that we're the right fit for them, and they go and they find something that is the right fit for them, that's good. That's like something we celebrate, right? And sometimes when someone's evaluating and they write into our member experience team and they're debating, we tend to show them alternatives before we don't try to convince anyone, right? Because now we understand that we really just want customers who really love and find it a really true fit. And it's funny because we actually have our interview for the member experience team has a trick question that tells you, okay, so if you're running a burger shop and someone comes in and asks for spaghetti, what do you do? And I won't tell you the answer, but I'm sure you can imagine. But it's that, do you really want to convince them to stay here even though they're going to be unhappy with their burger spaghetti, or do you want to point them to the best direction where they can find what they really need? So
I'm gonna steal that question for an interview. I think it's a really cool one.
Did you ace it?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, hair flip. So for me, I think personally, there was a mindset shift, and that helped a lot. But then there's also, I'm still trying to understand, like, where is the line, right? Like everyone reassures me that we have fantastic retention rate, that churn is not a problem. But at some point, I don't want to wake up one day and there's boom, churn's a problem, right? So even though it's not something that is a red flag, I'm still investing a lot into making sure that people who want to stay don't have a reason to leave, right? So if there's any gap in learning, if there's a problem that maybe they didn't find what they were looking for, like we can make it super easy. And then obviously like having that conversation always to make sure that if there's a problem, we fix it. And if it's not our fault, or if it's just that we're not the right fit, then it's great. That's fine.
Yeah, I do think you have like the perfect approach, to be honest, because let's face it, like in SaaS, we often talk about like the magic number, which is the net retention. And usually you want to have it like above 100% to be kind of like magical, which means that even if your user base stays the same, you're going to keep getting like more and more revenue. So that's the case for a lot of enterprise accounts where there is a lot of upsells, et cetera, et cetera. But in your case, you don't have upsells, right?
Exactly. So we can't go past 100. 100 is like our...
Exactly. So for me, as long as, like you're focusing on the quality and keeping that number as close to 100 as possible, it's already awesome. And I feel like, to be honest, like talking to a lot of business owners and ourselves, like the first, your retention is amazing. So congrats.
It's great. What's your retention?
For us, it really depends on the segment. The truth is, like I think you are. I'm really impressed in the way you have like segmented your customer base, like who you're addressing, etc. For us, typically, for very small businesses, so like for example, like we could have like entrepreneurs, founders, etc. Like the retention is not really good, so I don't look at it. I tend to look at like the retention for bigger sales teams. So as soon as the company gets, for example, more than 3 seats, we know that they have like a sales team that will keep growing. And in that case, we tend to have like so net negative MRR churn. So it's like a retention of 102, 3, 5 sometimes, depending on the segment. And then we have agencies. So agencies are the one running campaigns for their clients. And in that segment, we do have like a really cool, some really cool metrics. So again, like I think you always need to look at, and even for you, it might be interesting actually, to look at retention on different angles. So instead of just looking at your retention, what you could look at is, okay, if I take only the customers who have paid for more than 6 months, what the retention like? Because sometimes, like you would have a high churn in the first 3 months, and then after that, people stay forever. Or it's actually like some stuff you could look at down the line if you're thinking about either fundraising or exiting or selling a part of your company.
Yeah. Okay, that's really good advice. Thank you.
I'm curious because I mean, when I look at your story, everything seems to be like so perfect, and I know that entrepreneurial journey. It's not the case. So can you share a bit like, let's say, top 3 biggest struggles you faced in the last 2.5 years?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so many. There's struggles every day, right? And I think that's one of the things that works, that we talk about struggles openly, but it's just part of building a company, right? Like one is everything's always changing. And sometimes that's hard, right? So we try to find the right balance of how do we work really hard and adapt fast, but also not burn out, because this was already a hard year, right? Like without just like having an uncertain startup culture. So that's one. 2, the growth was not something planned, right? So when that happens, there were a lot of things in the infrastructure, especially at the very beginning, that weren't prepared for that kind of growth. So for example, 4 months after launching, we had 3 months after launching, 3.5, we had Black Friday, right? And we didn't realize that that's the biggest day of the year for email marketing companies, because everyone's like sharing their sale campaigns and offers and
several times per day.
But yes, exactly. So we weren't prepared. We didn't prepare the infrastructure, and we crashed for like a good 4 hours, which to me was like a lot of anxiety and really hard. And I had a full-time job, so I couldn't even like figure out how to do it. And then we're a remote team, so we weren't even in the same location. So it's like, how do we wake up that person that's on the other side of the world? And then how do we solve this? So that was really hard, I think, because for me personally, I was very afraid of losing the trust.
All your customers, yeah. And what happened? Like, did people get mad on Facebook group or contacted the support or yourself? Like, how exactly did it go?
Yeah. So we didn't really have a full support team at that time. So I do remember like looking at my inbox and there's like 400 messages and I'm like, okay, this is a lot. And then we just tell them what happened. And then I remember Rebecca and I went on video and we explained what happened and what we were going to do to prevent it from happening again. And then the next day I woke up and we were tagged, like our Flodesk account was tagged on Instagram like a lot of times. And it was just like growing and growing. And I remember thinking, that's it, we're done, right? Everyone's probably telling all of their friends that we are shit and our product doesn't work and they should stay away. And I thought we were over. And I'm pretty sure I was depressed in that moment. And I tried to not open them. But then at some point you just have to like deal with it. So like 30 minutes later, I'm like, okay, fine, I'm going to open them. And it's really, I think probably this day, it's one of those memories that you save in your positive folder for later, because one by one, it was our members turning to their audience saying, I remember specifically Jessica from my Vita saying, hey, you guys, Flodesk broke the internet. Like, you have no idea, this platform is going to be the next big thing and you better get on it now or it's going to be too late. And here's my referral code. And I could not believe it, right? We were forgiven. And I was just so grateful to have a second chance. And I remember talking to Rebecca and Trong in that moment and saying, we really better not fuck it up now, right? Like we were forgiven.
We had our shot.
Yeah, exactly. And then later on, we realized a lot of times things are going to happen. Like the year later, Amazon was down, and then we were also affected because they were down and there's nothing else we could do. So we started thinking, okay, we have to be better than even the infrastructure that we're sitting on. So how do we start creating really redundant systems? How do we make sure that we're super transparent and also like very proactive so this doesn't happen, but also everyone goes down at some point, right? So also, how do we create a very good disaster recovery plan and communication strategy so everyone knows what to expect? And next time something happens, I don't want to find out by going in my email and seeing someone report it, right? Like, we need to have also internally a lot of systems that are just like automatically checking to make sure that everything's on. And if it's not on, we need to be proactive. So by the time someone reaches out, they will have already heard from us. So it was just, again, like changing that to things are going to happen, but let's make sure that we resolve it really well. And I think that's gotten us so far, because it's a startup, right? Like, we're still learning a lot of things that we don't know. And we haven't lost that trust, which is something that we really treasure. So
that's really cool. And have you ever had like any troubles or issue with your co-founders? Because I know, like, when things are going really fast, this is where sometimes the alignment is not always there. The ambition can vary over time because, like, you had your job, you just thought like, okay, like, I want to launch something. Let's see if we can reach 500 customers, and you reach like 5,000. So things are totally out of control and the growth hasn't stopped since then. So is that something that happened, or were you always aligned, always happy? And
No. I mean, I think like probably like most of the discussions that we have, we're on different sides. I think I would attribute a big part of the success to the fact that no matter where we're coming from, we always find a way to resolve it. And we always remember that A, we're on the same team, and B, it's not an ego thing, right? It doesn't matter what I think or what you think. It's a matter of like what's going to really benefit our customers and what's going to be good for the team. And we always find a way to get on the same page. And it doesn't matter how like heated the arguments get or how like separate we are in our thinking. That feeling that we're in the same team, that we really are like sitting on the same side of the table, I think really trumps it all. And that's very, very positive. But yes, I mean, at the beginning, we're a remote first company, right? So you have 3 people building something and we're not even in the same place. I was in Mexico at the time. Rebecca was in San Francisco. Trang was in Da Nang in Vietnam. So we're not even on the same time zone. And we're building these. And then at the beginning, we had obviously like the time zone problems, but also communication problems because you're working with new people and that's just like a human thing. And then we had this stage where we almost like had imposter syndrome so strong that we didn't want to admit that something wasn't like completely put together. So we brought this like perfect, like I've got these, like angle to all of our conversations. I remember one time having a conversation about, hey, is this, I'm not even going to get deep in it because I don't want it to be like a thing for one of us, but is this thing taken care of, right? And then the answer was, yeah, of course it's taken care of. And no, it wasn't, right? But we were more concerned with admitting that we didn't have it together than just having that honest conversation. So that was a really big learning. I think we learned it very fast, where we were very conscious about the ego piece, right? It doesn't matter if you have it together or not. Like, we have no idea what we're doing, but we have to be really honest with each other. And we have to be like really good at admitting like what we don't know, because there's people trusting us, right? And now there's people depending on us. So we just need to be very transparent. And once we adopted that, things became so much easier, right? But yeah, I mean, those things always happen, I think. And I remember also having a conversation with Rebecca at the beginning, and I told her, look, this is going to be really hard, and it's going to feel like we're always climbing this impossible mountain, right? Even when we have a win, it's going to feel like there's still so much more to go, and we're going to get mad at each other. And at some point, you're probably going to hate me, and you're going to want to vent to someone and say things that you wouldn't say to my face. And you know what? Like, that's okay. And don't feel guilty, because that's going to be very inefficient. So just like whatever you need to let out. And however you're feeling, it's fine. Yeah. And I will know. And don't come and tell me, right? Like, I will know that that's just human, and we're in the same team, and that's okay. And we reference that conversation a lot, because it's like, yeah, I mean, things happen, but ultimately, like, we really love each other, and we're in the same team, and we're here not for us, but for others. And that makes it easier, right? Like that kind of fixes things.
Yeah, love that mindset. I want to be cautious of your time, so we're gonna end up with the final three. Time fly, actually. Like, I didn't realize it was almost an hour. What's your favorite book or podcast?
Okay. So I don't remember the name of the podcast, but it's something like marketing growth. And I really love it because there's a lot of interviews that are very real. Like the concept that you're probably even more real, but just like that concept of a lot of learnings, like really fast. I remember when we started, we listened to a lot of podcasts, and these ones stood out. Book, The Little Prince is one that I keep going back and reading, and The Alchemist, as cheesy as that sounds, I really like it. I think it just like sparks the sense of adventure and the unknown and kind of like following your path. So I really like that one by Paulo Coelho. And yeah.
Who's your favorite Bootstrap founder, and why?
Okay. I really admire Taupe from Calendly. They're not Bootstrapped anymore. I think they just raised, but for the longest life of the business until now, it was completely bootstrapped. And he discovered that he could grow by viral loops as well very early on, and then stay very aligned to serving the customers very well. And that created this like massive company, right? That now it's huge, and everyone knows Calendly, and a lot of everyone uses Calendly maybe. So him, and I really like his story. One time he shared it, and it was something that happened in his life that made him realize that he's not going to live forever. And even though he was petrified of building these, he just needed to go and do it. So I found that very inspiring. And then also Todd from Show It. I've always admired how I know he gets approached by investors all the time, and he just really, really wants to build something where he doesn't have other shareholders other than his team and his customers. And he's probably the person that I've seen always does right by the people. And it's just impressive, because it's not even his philosophy, that's just his heart, right? So that was always something that I admired as well. And we try to model a lot of things after both.
Nice. I'll definitely check him out, because I didn't know actually the company or the person. And what's your favorite thing to do when during hard times and you need to kind of like regain energy and motivation?
So I really like spending time with myself. I think that sounds maybe selfish, but just like waking up and not talking to anyone. Yeah, me time. It's so necessary, but that's how I regain energy. Nobody believes that I'm an introvert, but I'm actually an introvert, and I need like quiet time. Also, like I hear everything, and it drives me insane. So that, and then I'm working with a coach, Oren, who said at the beginning, you really need to start meditating. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, there's no way that I can just stay quiet for like 15 minutes. And he said, if you don't do this program and you don't start meditating, we don't work together. So I was like, okay, fine. And then I followed the program. It's called Ziva, Z-I-V-A, and it's like a 16-day meditation course. And ever since I've been meditating, and that was in January. And I found that it actually does help me regain my energy, but also gets me grounded where I normally like up here. It just helps me feel present, and that helps me make better decisions, but also feel more energized and show up better to the rest of the team. So I would say that's probably my number one right now. I've been schooled.
That's awesome. Where can people follow you or get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, so we're at Flodesk on Instagram. I'm pretty sure it's the same on Facebook, and Twitter is at Flodesk INC.
Awesome. We'll put all the links in the description. Thanks a lot, Marcia, for your time, and have an amazing day.
Thank you so much. You as well.
Thank you for listening to the Bootstrap Stories, the only podcast where Bootstrap entrepreneurs share their journey in all transparency. If you enjoyed this episode, don't hesitate to leave us a review. And in case you want to see the interview, all episodes are live on the Guillaume Moubesh YouTube channel. Check out the link in the description and hit subscribe if you haven't already. Have an amazing day and make sure to also join us in our amazing Bootstrap community where we all help each other to become successful and grow a profitable business. Take care and talk to you soon.